We're all adults here. We make our own decisions and we have to live with them.
Former Manatee County Commissioner Errol is a Republican who supports Amendment 4. That's the right to abortion initiative.
We're not asking anybody to give up their Republican Party. We're giving people the freedom to choose their health care.
Meanwhile, Florida's top Republican, Governor Ron DeSantis, is urging all Republicans, especially elected officials, to publicly come out against the amendment.
Welcome back to The Big Deal, where we are taking a look at some of the big issues that voters will be weighing in on this November. Abortion access is one of the year's top ballot questions, and it is set to appear in 10 different states. Measures to protect access to abortion will go before voters in Arizona, Colorado, Maryland, Montana, Nevada, and South Dakota. The stakes are highest in Missouri, and in Florida and Nebraska, there are strict bans in place following the overturning of Roe versus Wade. In Nebraska, voters will be asked to vote on 2 competing measures to either expand or limit abortion access. If both of those pass, the one with the most votes will take effect. And in New York, a proposed amendment would protect access and bar discrimination based on sex, although that question does not specifically include the word abortion. Among women voters, abortion has become one of the most important issues following the economy. That's according to recent polling by the New York Times and Siena College. And the issue does not fall strictly along partisan lines. A growing number of Republican women all around the country are working to restore or preserve abortion access in their states. Spectrum News reporter Dahlia Dangerfield has the story of one conservative group's efforts.
We're all adults here. We make our own decisions and we have to live with them.
Former Manatee County Commissioner Errol is a Republican who supports Amendment 4. That's the right to abortion initiative. Back in 1973, Errol chose to have an abortion.
I was in such shock. I lived by myself. My parents were in jail. So I made that decision. An aunt helped me. And did I like what I did? No, but I made the choice.
She shared that story in 2022, and Errol says it cost her the commission seat. But this year, Errol is finding more support from some of her Republican colleagues. In fact, they've held a couple of informational gatherings in the Bay Area. This picture from the Tampa Bay Times shows one of the events with more than 40 people attending, many Republican. It's made national headlines.
We're not asking anybody to give up their Republican Party. We're giving people the freedom to choose their health care.
Meanwhile, Florida's top Republican, Governor Ron DeSantis, is urging all Republicans, especially elected officials, to publicly come out against the amendment. He talked about it at this weekend's GOP victory dinner.
It is an intentionally deceptive and misleading amendment. It should have never been approved to be on this ballot by the Florida Supreme Court.
Amendment 4, an abortion amendment that's much more extreme than at first it seems.
Also strongly opposing the amendment, the Catholic Diocese of St. Petersburg. Some spoke about it during Sunday Mass, added this video to their website, and recently they asked church members to add signs in their front yards. The bishop saying, "When it comes to issues, I think we not only have a right, but a responsibility as Christians to get involved in the political sphere and to make sure that our voice is heard." Dahlia Dangerfield, Spectrum News.
Joining me now with more on this is Alex Cohen, political anchor at Spectrum News 1 in Southern California. Alex, I want to play a part of Trump and Harris's exchange on abortion during their debate.
No. I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me.
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America.
Trump has repeatedly changed his position on abortion, and Harris is now capitalizing on that. She's got a new campaign ad to that effect. What do you think voters took away from the debate when you think about their remarks during that debate?
You know, I think that the debate was really an opportunity, Errol, for the American public to see that, on I would say a number of issues, especially when it comes to reproductive rights, that to a certain extent, the former president wants to have his cake and eat it too. On the one hand, I think we can all recall him being out there on the campaign trail boasting about being the person responsible for the Supreme Court picks that led to the overturning of Roe versus Wade. And then simultaneously saying, no, I'm not getting involved. This is really for the states to decide. And when you're talking about an issue that is so deeply personal, so deeply divisive as abortion, it's very difficult to play it both ways. I think what will be interesting to see is when, because your question was about the voters, I think for those who already were very turned off by Donald Trump and his stance on this issue, they will stay in that camp. For those who were looking to support him because of the decision to overturn Roe versus Wade, will they kind of hold their nose and overlook some of the things he said more recently, realizing that between the two, he is probably more closely aligned with their values.
Okay, so now let's look at what's going on in some of these states. Millions, actually tens of millions of dollars are being poured into the various states to pass these upcoming ballot measures. But what are the next steps? Even if the referendum in any given state is approved by voters, are there going to be legal challenges to maybe slow down the process?
Yeah, it is very complicated and tricky. And as you mentioned at the outset, look at the state of Nebraska, which could have a huge impact on this election, where they've got two competing measures. And if they both pass, the one with the most votes wins. Look, even getting these measures on the ballots have been very complicated political and legal processes. And I think that there is certainly a chance in any number of these states, because we've seen protecting abortion rights had a very good track record. Just 2 years ago, there was a similar measure on the ballot here in California. I think the real question is, will those looking to ban abortion, how far will they be willing to go to try to challenge it? You know, especially in a year like this, where this is not a great issue for Donald Trump and the Republicans.
And let's be clear. I mean, back in 2004, there was a different issue. It was same-sex marriage back then, and it was very divisive all around the country. Voters in 11 states, though, chose to ban same-sex marriage. They had ballot measures. It's sort of similar to what's going on now. The beneficiary in that case was George W. Bush, who opposed same-sex marriage. Is that what's going on here? Just sort of an effort to drive turnout that will help one candidate or another?
Yeah, it's a great question, Errol, and there's no doubt about it. And again, I'll go back to abortion as an issue in 2022. It definitely helped turn out the vote, and it had huge implications throughout the ballot in many of these states. That said, I mean, I've looked at the history. You and I have both covered politics for a long time. Some of those closest to George W. Bush said, in the end, same-sex marriage really didn't make that huge of a difference in terms of the share of the electorate. The other thing that I'd like to add is be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. You know, when you start putting so much attention on an issue, you might in the short term get what you want, but in the long term, it doesn't always pan out that way. Same-sex marriage, I think, is a perfect, example of that. Here in California, it was illegal, and there was so much furor and anger over that eventually it wound up going all the way to the Supreme Court, and now we have a very different law of the land, and I think that's what you see time and time again with these culture war issues.
Okay, thanks very much. Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, and click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.